Hello, everybody. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Part 3, Chapter 5. After breakfast, Levin, in returning to his work, took his place between the quizzical Starik, who asked him to be his neighbor, and a young moujik who had only lately been married and was now mowing for the first time. The Starik mowed straight on with long, regular strides, and the swinging of the scythe seemed no more like labor than the swinging of arms when walking. His well-whetted scythe cut, as it were, of its own energy through the succulent grass. Behind Levin came the young Mishka. His pleasant youthful face under a wreath of green leaves which bound his curls worked with the energy that employed the rest of his body. But when anyone looked at him, he would smile. He would rather die than confess that he found the labor hard. The labor seemed lighter to Levin during the heat of the day. The sweat in which he was bathed refreshed him, and the sun, burning his back, his head, and his arms bared to the elbow, gave him force and energy. The moments of oblivion, of unconsciousness of what he was doing, came back to him more and more frequently. The scythe seemed to go of itself. These were happy moments. And then, still more gladsome, were the moments when, coming to the riverside, the Starik, wiping his scythe with the moist, thick grass, rinsed the steel in the river, then, dipping up a ladleful of water, gave it to Levin. "Nu ka, my kvass." "Ah, good," he exclaimed, winking. And indeed it seemed to Levin that he had never tasted any liquor more refreshing than this pure, lukewarm water, in which grass floated, and tasting of the rusty tin cup. Then came the glorious slow promenade, when, with scythe on the arm, there was time to wipe the heated brow, fill the lungs full, and glance round at the long line of haymakers, and the busy life in field and forest. The longer Levin mowed, the more frequently he felt the moments of oblivion, when his hands did not wield the scythe, but the scythe seemed to have a self-conscious body, full of life, and carrying on, as it were, by enchantment, a regular and systematic work. These were indeed joyful moments. It was hard only when he was obliged to interrupt his unconscious activity to remove a clod or a clump of wild sorrel. The Starik found it mere sport. When he came to a clod, he pushed it aside and repeated taps of his scythe, or with his hand tossed it out of the way. And while doing this, he noticed everything and examined everything that was to be seen. Now he picked a strawberry and ate it himself, or gave it to Levin. Now he discovered a nest of quail from which the cock was scurrying away, or caught a snake on the end of his scythe, and having shown it to Levin, flung it out of the way. But for Levin and the younger fellow behind him, these repeated observations were difficult. When once they got into the swing of work, they could not easily change their movements and turn their attention to what was before them. Levin did not realize how the time was flying. If he had been asked how long he had been mowing, he would have answered a quarter of an hour, and here it was almost dinner time. The Starik drew his attention to the girls and boys, half concealed by the tall grass, who were coming from all sides, bringing the haymakers their bread and jugs of kvass, which seemed too heavy for their little arms. "See, here come the midgets," said he, pointing to them, and shading his eyes, he looked at the sun. Twice more they went across the field, and then the Starik stopped. "Nu, barin, dinner," said he in a decided tone. Then the mowers, walking along the riverside, went back to their kaftans, where the children were waiting with the dinners. Some clustered around the telyegas, others sat in shades of the laburnum, where the mown grass was heaped up. Levin sat down near them. He had no wish to leave them. All constraint in the presence of the barn had disappeared. The moujiks prepared to take their dinner. They washed themselves, took their bread, emptied their jugs of kvass, and found some places to nap in, while the children went in swimming. The Starik crumbed his bread into his porringer, mashed it with his spoon, poured water on it from his tin basin, and, cutting off still more bread, he salted the whole plentifully. And turning to the east, he said his prayer. Then he invited Levin. "Nu ka, barin, my tirki," said he, kneeling down before his porringer. Levin found the tiurka so palatable that he decided not to go home for dinner. He dined with the Starek, and their conversation turned on his domestic affairs, in which the Baron took a lively interest, and in this turn told the old man about such of his plans and projects as would interest him. He felt as though the Starek were more nearly related to him than his brother, and he could not help smiling at the feeling of sympathy which this simple-hearted man inspired. When dinner was over, the Stark offered another prayer and arranged a pillow of fresh-mown grass and composed himself for a nap. Levin did the same, and in spite of the flies and insects tickling his heated face, he immediately went off to sleep, and did not wake until the sun came out on the other side of the laburnum bush and shone brightly above his head. The Stark was awake, but was sitting down, cutting the children's hair. Levin looked around him, and did not know where he was. Everything seemed changed. The mown field stretched away into immensity, with its windrows of sweet-smelling hay, lighted and glorified in a new fashion by the oblique rays of the sun. The bushes had been cut down by the river, and the river itself, before invisible, but now shining like steel in its windings, and the busy peasantry in the high wall of grass where the field was not yet mowed, and the young vultures flying high above the field. All this was absolutely new to him. Levin calculated what his workmen had done and what still remained to do. The work accomplished by the 42 men was considerable. The whole field, which in the time of serfdom used to take 32 men 2 days, was now almost mowed. Only a few corners with short rows were left, but he wanted to do still more. In his opinion, the sun was sinking too early. He felt no fatigue. He only wanted to do more rapid, and if possible better, work. "Do you think we shall get to Mashkin Hill mowed today?" he demanded of the Stark. "If God allows, the sun's still high. Will there be little sips of vodka for the boys?" At supper time, when the men rested again, and some of them were lighting their pipes, the Stark announced to the boys, "Mow Mashkin Hill, extra vodka." "Eka, come on, Seth, let's tackle it lively. We'll eat after dark. Come on," cried several voices, and even while still munching their bread, they got to work again. "No, keep up good hearts, boys," said Seth, setting off almost on the run. "Come, come," cried the Stark, hastening after them. "I'm first, look out." Old and young took hold in rivalry, and yet with all their haste they did not spoil their work, but the windrows lay neat in regular lines. The triangle was finished in 5 minutes. The last mowers had just finished their line when the first, throwing their kaftans over their shoulders, started down the road to the hill. The sun was just going behind the forest when, with rattling cans, they came to the little wood ravine of Mashkin Verk. The grass here was as high as a man's waist, tender, succulent, thick, and variegated with the flower called Ivan de Maria. After a short parley to decide whether to take it across or lengthwise, an experienced mower, Prokhor Yermilin, a huge black-bearded mushik, went out first. He took it lengthwise and came back in his track, and then all followed him, going along the hill above the hollow and skirting the wood. The sun was setting. The dew was already falling. Only the mowers on the ridge could see the sun, but down in the hollow where the mist was beginning to rise, and behind the slope they went in fresh dewy shade. The work went on. The grass fell in high heaps. The mowers came close together as the rows converged, rattling their drinking cups, sometimes hitting their scythes together, working with joyful shouts, rallying each other. Levin kept his place between the two companions. The Starek, with sheepskin vest loosened, was gay, jocose, free in his movements. In the woods, mushrooms were found lurking under the leaves. Instead of cutting off with his scythe, as the others did, he bent down whenever he saw one, and picking it up, put it in his breast. Still another little present for my old woman. The tender and soft grass was easy to mow, but it was hard to climb and descend the steep sides of the ravine. But the Starek did not let this appear. Always lightly swinging his scythe, he climbed with short, firm steps, though he trembled all over with the exercise. He let nothing escape him, not an herb or a mushroom, and he never ceased to joke with Levin and the mushiks. Levin behind him felt that he would drop at every instant, and told himself that he should never climb, scythe in hand, the steep hillside where, even unencumbered, it would be hard to go. But he persevered all the same and succeeded. He felt as though some interior force sustained him.